Ready, set.
Morning, Pat. Mike Barber, Richmond Times-Dispatch. Kind of a big picture NIL question. Have you gotten a sense of, is there an advantage to your program being in a major city as opposed to maybe other schools in the ACC that could be in a smaller footprint? Do you have a gauge of that at all?
Yeah, good morning, Mike. I think anytime you're in a larger, metropolitan city like Pittsburgh is, that you're going to have those advantages. It takes time to build those advantages as well. And our athletic department's working hard to just increase what's happening there as well as our collective.
We're going to go to the right side, Coach, about fourth row.
Kenton Gibbs with Locked On ACC right there. How you doing this morning, Coach?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Great as always. So, as the last ACC champs ever at the moment from the Coastal, how do you feel when you hear people say like, oh, now that there are no more divisions, it's going to be a little bit tougher on Coastal teams? How do you feel about that type of talk at this point?
I totally disagree with it, and I appreciate you mentioning that championship. My man MJ's got his ring on today. I didn't think about it. Show that ring, MJ. He's got that championship ring on this morning. I was like, nobody reminded me, EJ, to bring my ring today, but it's awful important. But I think it has nothing to do with it. And I think back to, in 21 when you go to the championship game and beat Wake Forest, you beat the reigning champion in Clemson at home. And you took care of business. And whether you're in the Atlantic or whether you're in the Coastal Division, pretty much you got to beat Clemson to get there, correct? And, to me, we did that and won the championship. So to me, that makes it even sweeter.
Coach, to your left, right there, front row.
Dan Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. Coach, as far as the transfer portal goes, the ability to go anywhere, not have to sit out, especially within conference, you've obviously taken advantage of that. Just what you think about those new rules and how you can find somebody that's going up against you and have an opportunity to have them work for you the next season.
Yeah, again, we tried not to, make a living in the portal. I mean, I want to recruit high school football players. I think we've got some 21 or 22 committed to us at this point right now for the 24 class. But you go off a need, and if someone ends up leaving your program, you're able to supplement it with an older guy. And I think the rules are good. I think the portal windows hopefully will shrink a little bit as far as just kind of figuring out, 90% of the kids go in the portal the first 5-7 days anyway. So just let's shorten the windows and let's move on.
Coach, we'll go back to your right, fourth row.
Kenton Gibbs, Locked On ACC. In terms of not having the flashiest recruiting classes on paper and all that, not having a ton of 5 stars and all that come through your program, Pitt is still consistently at the top in terms of producing NFL talent and how many guys get drafted every year. Can you speak to player development and how you all make that happen?
Well, I think it's, it starts with player development. It starts with evaluations, okay? I mean, obviously we need coaches to coach our players and develop the guys that you're seeing on the stage up here. But you also need to have an eye for talent, I think. And, I really trust our evaluation process. And it comes down to, I would say we're the total opposite of being lazy in the evaluation process. I mean, whether it's a guy in the portal that we the portal's full of guys, but, we got a couple scholarships still available right now, but I haven't chosen to go out there and use those in the portal because there's nobody really that I go, oh, we want that guy, okay? So we're going to be very picky with who we take. We got some guys on our football team that I think are pretty good football players that will, hopefully at the end of August give those guys a scholarship and reward those guys. But, I think it comes down to our evaluation process, I think. And, I don't know the exact numbers, but a few weeks ago they kind of re-ranked our 18 class or something like that and said it was ranked in the top 10. So I don't care where the rankings are. We don't, recruit stars. I'm not looking to have the flashiest recruiting class because all those stars don't matter. Some people just recruit stars. Oh, he's a four-star guy. Let's take him. We're not going to do that. We try to avoid that and look for the best possible football player that fits our program.
Coach, follow the center aisle right up there to your left.
Noah Hiles, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Pat, there was a lot of talk yesterday and just in general about NIL legislation and guidelines. If you could change one thing about the current NIL landscape, what would it be?
Well, Noah, good to have you down here. I appreciate you making the effort to come down. I think the most important thing is if I had to, put it, there's got to be a lid on it, right? I think everybody wants to play under the same rules. And, in National Football League, they have a salary cap. I think you want to have some type of salary cap. This is what you're allowed to spend. But you can't have, universities that maybe have 75,000 students, those guys are all former alumnus at some point. And when you have 16,000, all that thing's gonna, it's gonna matter. So it can't be based on how big your university is, because we'll start building more dorms and, what are we doing? Well, we've got education that is a priority, and we're not gonna have classes full of thousands of kids. We're gonna have small class sizes. And again, we're gonna have small alumni groups as they matriculate through the University of Pittsburgh. So I think there's gotta be a lid on the thing. There's gotta be some type of, if you're gonna leave the portal open, there's gotta be a salary cap so people can't just go overspend.
To your right, Coach, third row. We'll get the microphone again, please.
You had it at the end there. Try it again.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, cool. This is Chris Heidel from Herbertson Radio in Baltimore. You guys are playing at Yankee Stadium this year against Syracuse. How cool is it to play in that famous ballpark?
It's really cool. The last time I was there, we didn't win a game in that park, so we'll be working hard to go back there. You always kind of think about Yankee Stadium and the prestige of going into that facility in New York. At 3:30, I believe the game time is. So it'll be a fun game. And again, as a coach, I always look back to, hey, what happened last time I was there, and we'll make sure that doesn't happen. So that's coach talk.
Coach, back to Dan in the front row to your left.
Coach, as one of the longest tenured in the ACC right now, just what you can say about the brand that the Atlantic Coast Conference has brought to football, and just what you've seen going up against the teams that you've had from year in and year out as one of the coaches that has had a lot of time in.
Right. It's interesting. I spent 8 years in the Big Ten before coming here. Obviously as a defensive coordinator, not a head coach, but now 8 years in the ACC. And I personally, and again, it's no slam to the Big Ten at all, because it's a heck of a conference as well. But I look at the quality of players in the ACC, and maybe it's because it stretches down the Atlantic Coast, the Atlantic Coast from Miami up to Boston. But there's just the quality of athletes. It's different, and I look at it in the defensive perspective. Some of the receivers that we got to defend, I felt like we didn't have to defend that, back in the day, in the Big Ten. And then I think when you look at the quarterbacks, I think we had 12 different quarterbacks start in the NFL from the ACC last year. That's impressive. We got one right next door in Kenny Pickett. But I just think the quality of quarterbacks, and we know the game starts with the quarterback play, correct? You can have a left guard or a center position or a defensive tackle, but when you talk, college football and some of the best football, it comes to quarterbacks. You look at Trevor Lawrence and all the quarterbacks that the ACC has produced. I look back in the Big Ten and look at, we had one of the premier guys in Kirk Cousins, but when you look at the Big Ten in the last, really 16 years, who are those guys that are starting in the NFL? Kirk Cousins is probably the most popular one that you think of at this point. I may miss somebody, but no disrespect.
Got about 6 minutes left with Coach. We'll go left side, Coach, almost towards the wall.
Hey, Coach. Tony Siracusa from Last Word on Sports. Talk about, if you can, what the calendar, especially in December, has done to coaching when you've got the early signing period, the transfer portal window, presumably trying to get ready for postseason play, and recruiting all at the same time. What has that done? What do the changes look like for you in December?
Yeah, I would say as a college football coach, the 2 worst months of the year are December and June. You mentioned all the things that are happening in December with the signing day, bowl games. The portal opens up, and you're wondering, what's going to happen there, and what do you need, what are you losing? June is the same way. And next year, I guess now they're going to say, August 15th, we can now have, July 15th, have some type of written communication with the 25 class, which is, again, another one. Like, why do we do that? Like, this year it's August 1st. Next year it's another 15 days. It used to be September 1st. We keep moving. That's, a month and a half earlier now. And you're just making June a little bit more miserable for college coaches and our college staff. So I feel bad for our guys. But, I think some of the answers in December, and I'm not sure if you're looking for answers, is to move that signing day up, in my opinion. I think we got to move it up to, the end of June. The kids all just visited the end of June, or maybe August 1st when camp starts. Just move that date up and let's get it rolling. And I was talking to someone this morning at breakfast and talked about how really dead the month of August is as far as just, stuff going on. Let's get into, the signing date in August.
Coach, follow the center aisle all the way to the back. That's where we'll find David Teal.
Good morning, Pat. David Teal
Got you,
with
David.
the Richmond Times-Dispatch. This year starts a stretch of 7 times in 14 years you will play Notre Dame. Do you like that arrangement? I mean, that's as frequently as you play some of your most of your conference rivals.
Yeah, I don't know how that is, but we embrace that. We're looking forward to going up to South Bend and played them at my previous stop, and we enjoy that game. It's a big game, and our kids will be cranked up for that game. So, whatever the ACC says, hey, you're playing Notre Dame or you're playing Clemson, it doesn't matter who we play. We embrace that.
Coach, front row to your right.
How's it going, Coach? Lever KT, CFB Nation. You guys truly match the identity of your city, that blue collar, hard hat, steel mill type of workers. How did you guys arrive to that? You guys are great defensively. You guys can rush the passer, arguably the best secondary in the ACC. How did you guys get there?
I like you, man. I appreciate that. Make me feel good today. We're from a tough city. I look at myself, growing up in Youngstown, Ohio, kind of in a tough neighborhood, tough place. So to me, we embrace that toughness, and that's who I am. Whether I was in East Lansing or Oxford, Ohio, it doesn't matter where I've been. It's been about toughness, and we got a bunch of tough dudes here. We're going to be tough on all 3 phases of our game, and to me, it's what you coach every day. Our guys practice hard, they play hard, they work hard every day, and it's just part of our DNA.
Coach, your final question from here at the podium, a bit of a follow-up to that. When you think about culture and having to replace a quarterback for a second straight season, how do you maintain culture knowing that you've got that type of turnover to key position?
Yeah, when you look at the quarterback position and transfers, I mean, I read an article, early in the summer just about the amount of quarterbacks that go in the portal. It's probably one of that, that position that's going to move around as much as possible. But, the one thing I'll tell you about our family and our football team is they bring everybody in. And it's a lot easier to bring a guy in like Phil Dracovic, our quarterback, that's a Pittsburgh native, Pine Richland guy. I mean, he's back home. And but when we look at bringing those guys in, and you look at our roster of guys that we brought in the portal, we're bringing back guys that we've previously recruited. We worked hard at getting them the first time and didn't get them the second time. When he went to BC, we wanted him bad, but we had a guy named Kenny Pickett. I couldn't guarantee him being the starter. With Kenny Pickett being there, and then we got lucky, and we will get his last and final and his best season he's ever had.
Coach, thank you. You can switch places with MJ. MJ, you've got the podium for about 5 minutes, and MJ, we know you're the first school today, but you've already